And the judges will now introduce themselves.
Well, it's morning time, my time. I think it's afternoon time, your time, I think. Um, Good morning or good day. My name is Dan Wong. I'm a retired attorney and former judge. I'm also on the National Board of Directors for the Center for Civic Education, and I currently live in Boise, Idaho. Maria?
Hello, everybody. My name is Maria Garnett. I live in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a state policy professional, and I'm currently working as a policy advisor at Virginia's Department of Criminal Justice Services. This is my third year of involvement with We the People, and I am so excited to be with all of you.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Petra Al-Sufi. I'm an Outreach and Partnerships Manager at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding. We're a research and education group that does research on American Muslims and other faith communities. I'm also on the board of the Michigan Center for Civic Education. And many years ago, I think 17 or 18, I was in your place, a participant in We the People program. So I'm happy to be here with you today.
All right, students, please introduce yourselves. Tell us the name of your school and please introduce your teacher.
Hi, my name is Sabrina Rivera, and I'm covering for one of the colleagues today who was unfortunately not able to be here.
Hello, my name is Crystal Ochoa.
Hello, good morning. My name is Amanda Mraz. We attend Chicago Hope Academy and we represent the state of Illinois. We are coached by our teacher, Zach Mislenka, and we are so excited to testify in front of you today.
All right, thank you very much. Well, welcome. And we're very excited to hear your testimony regarding the following question. Question number 1. Thomas Hobbes noted that life in a state of nature is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. How has the human condition changed over time, and how is that change reflected in our expectations of government? Should the principles of natural rights or classical republicanism guide policy changes designed to improve the condition of all people? What are the most pressing domestic and global challenges facing Americans today and in the future? What policies can you suggest to address them? You may begin.
Thomas Hobbes' philosophy was that humans by nature required a government in order to maintain a balance in life and not commit crimes. In Leviathan, Hobbes argued that the absolute power of the sovereign was ultimately justified by the consent of the governed, who agreed in a hypothetical social contract to obey the sovereign in exchange for peace and security. Similarly, in Fed 51, James Madison argued that if men were angels, no government would be necessary. Madison argues that man is naturally flawed. James Madison argued that man is naturally flawed and that if man were born perfect, no government would be necessary. The framers were greatly influenced by classical republicanism, upholding the ideas of citizenship, civic virtue, small uniform communities, and the common good. Globally, we have experienced decades of industrial and technical revolutions which shape the world we live in today. Through that, more businesses and jobs were available to people, and over time, the United States has is more concerned in individual rights and personal gain. People today care more about personal accomplishments and individual liberties rather than working in unison for the better good of the nation. The divide between natural rights philosophy and classical republicanism has created a divide in our expectation of government.
The principles of classical republicanism should guide policy changes in order to improve the condition of man. As the United States has evolved, we have shifted from a philosophy of classical republicanism to natural rights. Even though this is true, our standards of the federal government have increased over time. Article 5 of the Constitution ensures that the federal government will protect the interests of the states. When other countries attack a specific state or city in the U.S., it is up to the government to bring help and reinforcement into that location to help that state or city recover. States have begun to rely more on the federal government, revealing that America is expecting a stronger federal government. Natural rights philosophy has created a sense of selfishness, which is not beneficial for the common good of the nation.
The domestic and global challenges facing Americans today include COVID-19 and political polarization. Local government involvement in low-income communities is necessary in order to address numerous challenges. These policies connect directly to classical republicanism because it involves small, uniform communities in order to improve the condition of all, not just the individual. COVID-19 has left many Americans facing challenges with jobs, finances, education, and health. Local, state, and federal government have gotten involved with helping the community so that the condition of all men may be improved. Local governments are able to understand the issues of the community better than the federal government. They are then able to provide solutions that best fit that community. In terms of political polarization, the nation does not see different point of views, and instead we judge by what we see without fully understanding what is going on beneath the surface. This is how political disputes begin, and in order to prevent this, we must be able to see eye to eye. The Founding Fathers established civil discourse so that every member may have a chance to voice their opinions. This allowed for everyone to have an equal say. Thank you. We are now ready for your questions.
All right, thank you. So in your testimony, you talked about selfishness and political polarization, which seems to go hand in hand. And as a remedy for that, you talked about civil discourse and equal time being heard. How do we get to that civil discourse and equal time for everyone to be heard? Be specific.
I would say really to get to understand one another and the different issues and circumstances we are all in, since we all live in different communities in different parts of the world, and therefore we might face the same issues, but that takes a different route into how we solve them because everyone is different and the solutions will be different as well. And I believe that with patience and being able to voice our own opinions and being able to listen to one another would really help.
So I'm going to push you a little bit. I mean, how do we get to the point where we're going to understand each other and have patience? How do we get there?
That having direct local government, as a community, we can grow towards a better tomorrow and not only like focus on ourselves, but understand that as a community, we all face similar issues and we just have to put our differences aside and be able to hear other people's opinions without wanting to see that they're wrong. You know, it's open-minded to understand that everyone's different.
Also, with our local government being more involved with the community, because a local government understands the issues of their community better than a federal government would, and they are able to provide better solutions as well and voice the community's opinions and views on a certain issue.
Okay. Thank you.
So you talked about the importance of everyone, you know, all the people being able to have a say in how they are governed. Is that currently the case? You know, and explain why or why not. And then if that's not the case, what are some steps that you think the government should take, the federal government in particular, to make sure that everyone can have a say in their government?
Could you repeat the question, please?
You talked about the importance of everyone being able to have a say in their government. So my first question is, do you think that's happening today? Do all people in the United States have an equal opportunity to have a say in their government? And why or why not?
I believe that our nation is currently now going through many changes where a lot of people are starting to voice their opinions a lot more. There's more outlets to voice your opinions through social media, and we have seen a lot of examples of injustices throughout the world or throughout America where in order to voice our opinions, we go to protest or we sign petitions. We are trying to work as a community to find solutions to our issues. And by the federal government enforcing more like a strict, more local government, our local governments can help our communities fix whatever issues they have.
I agree, as now we see that more people are getting involved and seeing that there are needs for change in different areas of the community. And I feel that now our voices are being heard more, since we see that, oh, there does need to be change here and there does need to be change there. So I do feel like our voices now are being heard more than ever.
Thank you. So I'll follow up on local government issue. So what if I'm hearing correctly, I'm hearing that local government is part of the solution to a lot of problems that we face in our communities. I'm going to flip the question a little bit. In what ways have the local government infringed on people's right to participate in their government and a say in overall governance? Is there anything that's going on now in any community where the local government is taking an active approach to not allow people to voice their opinions in their work in their local governments?
I believe that currently with COVID-19 and everything that's been going on, certain individuals from certain communities feel that their rights are being taken away because of the mask mandate, and they feel that, I don't want to wear a mask. Why should I? It's my natural right. Like, I shouldn't be forced to. But it's important for local governments to enforce the mask mandate in order to stop the spread of the virus. And I feel that the local governments that do that, they're working more towards like classical republicanism and working towards like a better tomorrow. Whereas like we see like cities in Texas or in Tennessee that have completely lifted the mandate, though I don't think it's helpful to our communities.
So let me ask you a question about you've mentioned the COVID-19 pandemic, which of course is on everyone's mind, and you certainly recognize that the common good would require that everyone wear masks, but there are individuals who want to exert their individual rights. So what penalty, if any, do you think should be when we have a public health issue and a common good issue? What penalty, if anything, do you think should be imposed on those who assert their individual rights and say, I'm not going to wear a mask? Anything? Any penalty that you think is appropriate? So, and so another way of saying is, do you think a citation is sufficient, or do you think imprisonment is the way to go?
I believe that imprisonment is a little too far, but in Chicago, in our public transportation, there's signs all over, like in our train and buses, that say, if you're caught without a mask, you will get a $250 fine. And if you are caught more than once, then the fine increases. And I believe that that's the way to go. You have to really enforce strict local government in order for people to want to make a change.
I agree with my colleague. I believe that imprisonment is a little too extreme, but definitely a citation would be so that way we can make sure that the well-being of everyone and not just an individual is okay. And I feel like a citation would be enough to really get them thinking.
All right, thank you. That is time.
All right, thank you. So my next question would have been, what if the person doesn't pay the citation? Is imprisonment sufficient at that point in time? Because we got some difficult issues here, and I thought you handled them fairly well. I enjoyed your 4-minute testimony. It was relatively easy to follow, and I always appreciate that, especially when we're listening to 12 to 14 teams this year. Or in this competition in one stretch. So I did appreciate the fact that it was easy to follow your answering the question. And you're absolutely right that selfishness and political polarization is a huge challenge. And us old people are looking to young people like you to come up with some answers on how to resolve that selfishness and political participation. It's a difficult issue, but let me suggest something. I think people who actually sit down and talk to each other under a certain set of rules, because quite frankly, for example, a town hall, but the town hall has to have rules, because I've seen some town halls that you know collapsed into a yelling and shouting match. But if there's a town hall where people with opposing views understand the rules and are willing to follow by the rules and give each other an opportunity to talk and express their views and opinions without interruption from the other side, that might go away toward reducing selfishness, because it's a matter of understanding, and might go a little bit toward political polarization. So that's, and in fact, I read about a person who has a meal in his home, and he consciously invites 3 right-wing people and 3 left-wing people, and they haven't started throwing food at each other. So there's something about the meal and the sharing the meal experience allows them to speak calmly and coolly and respectfully of each other. So let me throw that out as a suggestion. But I'm pretty confident that you all will come up with some additional ideas about how to do this, because it is a huge problem that needs to be solved, and we are actually looking to the youth of America, such as yourself, to do that, because quite frankly, some of our adults in Congress aren't able to do that. But good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I completely agree. I am just really impressed by how each of you, really worked to participate, even when you weren't totally sure about what we were asking. Like, I really like that you asked us to repeat the question and that you took a moment to think before you started speaking. That skill will serve you really well in life. I would always much rather somebody take a pause and figure out what they want to say, instead of just launching into something before they know what point that they're trying to make. One thing that I would like to encourage you all to think about is, providing your own examples from your own lived experience is really, really important. But when you're trying to, take a position and defend an argument, it's really important to make sure that the evidence that you're pointing to isn't just your own opinion. So, saying what you believe is great, but that's part of the purpose of this whole exercise, but always make sure you can tie it back to history or to the constitutional principle that you're talking about, or anchor it to something besides just your own opinion. College professors and workplace supervisors are often looking for that sort of thing. So, again, great job. I hope you all feel really, really good about how hard you've worked and what you've done. And I've really enjoyed getting to spend this time with you.
Yes, so echoing what my colleagues have said, I'm going to start with acknowledging the fact that even with substituting for one of your colleagues, so clearly there was some shift in the group, you still did well. So that's not easy to do, especially if you're just coming. I don't know when you had to make that decision, but clearly it didn't impact, how you all came across and what you presented. So that's one thing to be proud of. Again, echoing what Maria said, the fact that you all tried to participate, did pause to see what you want to answer before just jumping and telling us something that might not have made sense. Sticking to the points that you were comfortable with is, I think it was a good strategy in this case, because you were not trying to make something up. It's clear when someone is making something up. You stuck to what you knew, and that was great. And you try to fit it within the question that we were asking you. My, just few recommendations, because I know this would be work in progress, and I know this is not going to be the last time you're doing something like this. When you are providing solutions, like my other colleagues have mentioned, again, take a moment to think about what would they look like, you know? So when you were talking about, we could address a lot of the issues that we have today by getting to know each other. I am more than 100% sure that you have strategies for how to do that. I know you're doing that in your personal life, in your school. Just think of and draw on that experience. Like, how do you get to know each other? How do you know someone who's not living your experience? Or how do you get to know someone who is not in your school or not in your community and have a completely different way of life? So think about that just a little bit, so you have those tools with you to share. In terms of, you focused a lot on local government, and that's great. That's what you were comfortable with. One thing that I would have recommended is think of, do some research or homework, and you probably know what you just forgot, of some of the ways the local government is infringing upon locals' rights. So one thing that that could have come up is voting rights, and how a lot of local governments are trying to restrict for voting rights for a lot of communities, especially communities of color. So I'm sure it's tools that you already know, you've heard of. It's a lot of pressure to be in your seat, and sometimes we forget the things that we know. Maybe it's helpful next time to just even make a list. Make a list of, here's the position I have, here's what I'm going to defend, here's how that group is doing harm, and how that's going to come up, and just have that as a tool for you for the future. Okay, but great job. I know you're going to continue with this, and you're going to do amazing work.
Thank you.